Caught up in the swarm of Jesperi Kotkaniemi news, we had ourselves another really big piece of information coming out about a Montreal Canadiens forward who happens to be a center? Is a center? I don't really know. Isn't technically a center, but who was tried out at the center position beforehand. Let's talk today about what I'm going to start dubbing the Forgotten Hab as the Montreal Canadiens went over to the Stanley Cup Finals. Let's talk today about Jonathan Drouin. Because if you know the story of Drouin, you know the entire fiasco that we had this recent season with Drouin during his Canadiens tenure. He made his debut with the Montreal Canadiens in 2017-2018 when he was traded from the Tampa Bay Lightning for Mikhail Sergachev in a 1-for-1 swap. He had spent the next few seasons with Montreal cycling around in the center-ish position. He was a winger for a good chunk of that time, had 53 points in 81 games played as a career high with Montreal. And in this most recent season, we saw Drouin get 23 points in 44 games played. 2 goals, 21 assists. The assists was pretty okay, but the goal scoring really dried up. He's a former 20-goal guy with the Tampa Bay Lightning who had only 2 goals in 2021, which was not great. But his postseason numbers were nowhere to be seen. He had 7 points in 10 games last year in the bubble against the Penguins and the Flyers in that series, but this year, in 2021, when they went to the finals, he had 0 games played. This is because he had requested a leave of absence, and he was away from the team the entire time. Now, I think Montreal Canadiens fans did a pretty good job in distancing themselves from Drouin, allowing the guy to take space as to whatever it was that he felt he needed to dedicate space to, something in his life that we probably won't know about, and quite frankly aren't in a position to know about anytime soon, because, hey, if you have a personal issue, you need to take some time off of work in order to better yourself or ease yourself down, then hey, that is absolutely your prerogative to go out there and do. Drouin, who is a player that a lot of people would consider to being a top 6 caliber playmaker on the wing when he is at his best, was missing from the Habs roster. But we had ourselves the updates. This is from Dominique Ducharme ahead of Drouin's golf tournament the other day. He's relaxed, he's in good shape, he is confident, and he is excited to get back with our organization. Speaking about that golf tournament, by the way, hey, they raised $810,000. Fantastic number right there. Love to see it. The biggest update we had, though, for Drouin came in the form of an interview with 91.9 Sports earlier at the end of August. Jonathan Drouin told Pierre Houde this morning that he was ready to play center this season. I asked him, and he said he certainly did, and he was very serious. So, when it comes to the center argument of the Montreal Canadiens losing Danault, losing KK, acquiring Dvorak, acquiring Paquette, hoping for Jake Evans and Ryan Poehling to come in here and challenge for spots too, there is another player on this team that might be in that conversation as well, and it's one that we had seen in the past try out this entire process. It's Jonathan Drouin. Could we see him as a potential second-line center for the Montreal Canadiens behind Nick Suzuki? It's going to be really weird to even think about that idea with Christian Dvorak in the mix, and to be fair, these quotes, this radio hit over here on 91.9 Sports, it was said before the Dvorak trade even happened, but you also need to think about how this mention was also done right after the Kotkaniemi offer sheet happened, so we were kind of in this weird state of limbo of, okay, we might lose Danault, we might lose Kotkaniemi, what's going to happen afterwards? Are we going to get Drouin back at center to replace them? This is a really interesting idea because Jonathan Drouin did indeed debut with the Canadiens in 2017-2018 as a center. He posted up 46 points in 77 games played, and the common consensus amongst Canadiens fans when you take a look at how this guy played as a center wasn't really all too great. Mostly because back in this time frame, Jonathan Drouin was still a 3rd overall pick who was taken by the Lightning and who had been tried out at center in that organization, and he had 20 goals, and now he is in Montreal, and they played him to start off the year with, like, Pacioretty and Gallagher or whatever it was. Lo and behold, though, Jonathan Drouin had himself 46 points in 77 games played. He was 3rd on the team in point production, behind Alex Galchenyuk, who had 51 points, and Brendan Gallagher, who had 54. He was above Pacioretty, above Byron, who had 35 points. My goodness, Paul Byron, settle down there, buddy, eh? And then you had yourselves what was 2018-19, the next season where Drouin was moved over to the wing. They tried Domi out at center because they acquired that guy in the Galchenyuk trade, and you see how well that worked out for all the parties involved. Drouin had his 53-point year. That was his career high of points with the Montreal Canadiens. Domi had 72 points, and everybody was kind of freaking out because it was like, oh my goodness, we have our center right here. Drouin, he is great on the wing. He can just do playmaking things to Max Domi's center capabilities. It was a really good combo you had. And then Max Domi kind of fell off, and Drouin never really was able to go back to center and have himself a solidified role over there. So the idea of Drouin going back over to center is understandably pretty fishy for a lot of Canadiens fans, mostly because of what they remember from the progression of his career back in 2017, 2018, 19, and how that center process went around. He wasn't really a fit at center, which is why they shuffled him around on the wing so much, and it's kind of why he has his new home here on the left side. Now, to see him go out there and apparently say that he is willing to go out there and play center, this doesn't look like something that the team themselves had told him they wanted him to do. It is pretty interesting, just to say the least. I don't want to make it seem like it's going to happen or it's going to not, or they're going to play him at center or whatever, but like, it does bring up some debate as to whether or not Dvorak or Drouin or Evans is going to be the second and third or fourth line center. Where does Ryan Poehling fit into that mix? Maybe if Ryan Poehling isn't good enough, does a Jonathan Drouin slot into a bottom six center role? Who knows? Because you're going to lock in Dvorak with that top six spot. I'm not really too sure. One thing's for sure, though, if you were to ask me how I would play the Habs lines myself, I would say that you have Drouin with Dvorak, man. That is a really interesting pairing right there, mostly because you take a look at how Dvorak likes to play. He's a really good player away from the puck in both ends of the ice right here. This is what Friedman said, talking about Christian Dvorak on the 31 Thoughts podcast. I think Dvorak is a very good player, as long as he's got wingers who can carry the puck, and maybe that's Drouin, maybe that's somebody else. He can play very well with those kinds of guys. And hey, when Jonathan Drouin is not, let's just be real here, when he's not puck hogging, when he's not over holding onto the puck, he's a really good player when it comes to picking up the puck in the neutral zone, dancing over the blue line, making a move or two to shimmy his way over to open space, and then stopping up, analyzing where the play is, and then making a nice pass. That's when he doesn't hold onto the puck for too long, when he doesn't lose it into the corners. He is really good at just finding himself into the offensive zone, holding onto the biscuit. And if he can do that with Christian Dvorak, who is finding open space, putting himself in a scoring position, alongside of maybe a Josh Anderson or a Cole Caulfield or a Brendan Gallagher on the right side looking for some open space too. It could be a really good complementary scoring line right behind that Nick Suzuki, Tyler Toffoli pairing that you're going to have on the first line. So there are options here, and that's probably the best part about this Canadiens roster and the way their forwards are going to be organized, that there are going to be so many different variations of players, because as we noted, this team could have, if you want to say 20 goal scorers, who can be a 20 goal scorer on this team? Anderson, he had like 17 goals last year. He could be a 20 goal scorer. Gallagher, he's gotten 20 goals in his sleep before. He can be a 20 goal scorer. Caulfield, I'm going to say, yeah, Caulfield. Tyler Toffoli, too. He was one of the top guys in the entire NHL in goals. You have, of course, Mike Hoffman, who is over here. He is only known for scoring goals, so he's going to be a goal scorer, too. Not to mention the centers, you have Dvorak, who might be able to get 20, and you have Suzuki, too. That's 7 potential 20-goal scorers right there. And, I mean, if you have Drouin playing with any of them, if he is as developed mentally as we are thinking he could be, then this could be a really good welcome addition to the Canadiens. And he's making $5.5 million anyway, so why not go out there and use this guy? Sure, it could have been nice to say, oh, just LTIR the contract so we can get some more money to sign KK, but that's really not what we're going to be doing now anymore, isn't it? So, Jonathan Drouin, talk to me in the comments. What do you think about Drouin and his willingness to play center next season? Do you think it's honestly kind of needed? I personally don't really, but I do like the enthusiasm there. I'd be much more willing to see Drouin play as a winger to Christian Dvorak, because I personally think that pairing could be extraordinarily good for the Canadiens next season. But talk to me in the comments, what do you think? Drouin at center, if it is center, do you think you play him on the second line? You're not taking away that first line Suzuki spot, but is it second line over Dvorak? Is it third line in front of Jake Evans behind Dvorak? Or is it fourth line? Do you want to go out there giving Drouin fourth line minutes? I'll just try to fill in the blanks right there. Probably not. If not, though, where do you see Drouin playing? Where do you want him to play? Who do you want his line mates to be? And how many goals and points do you think he's going to get? Talk to me in the comments. What do you think? I hope you enjoyed this Virtual Trolls 99. and bye.